My name's Dan Gingiss, and I am the head of digital customer experience and social care at Discover. Very excited to follow Kevin as a avid Cubs fan, so I will try to keep the momentum rolling. And I'm going to talk to you about a bunch of different things. We'll hit on a couple of interesting topics. And while we, as a brand, probably don't have as much permission to be as edgy as maybe a baseball team does, we still have fun. So first, I'm going to start with kind of framing this around customer experience. That is in my title. It's in a lot of people's titles these days. So I wanted to get at sort of what I look at as our definition of customer experience. It really comes down to how customers feel about interactions with your brand. And the key word there is feel, because as we know, perception is reality. And so you may think that the experience with your brand is fantastic, but if your customers feel otherwise, or if the experience makes them feel a negative emotion, then that's going to come back. It also includes every single interaction in every channel. And that's really what a lot of my presentation is going to be about, is talking about how we integrate the messaging that we want across channels, because that experience that a customer has could happen in any channel or in multiple channels. So let's go with a really quick basic fast food example. Okay, this is Joe's Hamburger Company. It might be obvious to say that a major part of the customer experience is how the food tastes. I would agree. If that's where you stopped, however, you'd be missing so many things that have to do with the experience. Like, could the person find parking when they got to the restaurant? Was the server friendly, and did she or he get the order right? Was the temperature of the food acceptable? How about the temperature of the restaurant? Nobody likes eating while they're freezing or sweating. One of my favorites, were you able to pay with the method that you wanted to? And that, of course, is getting more and more complicated these days with new options. Were all the condiments available when you wanted them? And finally, for those of us with kids, were the kids' toys any good? Because as you know, if the kids' toys aren't good, you've now lost half your audience here. Okay, this also works digitally as well. So I'll switch to a pizza example because I thought it was a little bit easier. But how's the website? Does the website give me the information that I need to be able to order a pizza or to call and know what the menu is? Are they mobile friendly? What's the app like? How about marketing that I see throughout the web or on my mobile device? How does that affect my perception of the brand? And of course, what a lot of us are here to talk about, social media. What does my engagement with a brand on social media say about my overall experience? And how does my offline experience affect what I might say on social media about the brand? So how do we measure it? At Discover, we really look at three things. First of all, we start with lots of customer research and user testing. Now, this is basically customer experience before it actually becomes the experience. And it's us making sure that what we're building at every step of the way is meeting the customers or exceeding the customer's needs. We also do a ton of listening in various voice of the customer channels. So we get direct feedback from our telephone reps. We look at ratings and reviews sites externally. We do a lot of social media listening. I manage the website, and we have a tool called Opinion Lab. We get probably 80,000 comments a year on Opinion Lab and several 100,000 ratings. So we take all of that and use that to internally measure our customer experience. And then it's always good to look at third-party evaluators. You can pick holes in all of their methodologies, but we look at it as, even though last year we were very, very proud to finally, after many years, tie American Express for the J.D. Power Customer Experience Award. We don't start every day saying we want to win J.D. Power. We start every day saying that we want to have the best customer experience, and J.D. Power or Forrester are validators of that. So why is customer experience important? It's a little bit of a hard-to-see chart, but this is a chart from Forrester that shows a direct statistical connection between customer loyalty and their customer experience. So what you can see here, and even I've got to get a little bit closer without falling off the stage. At the top, you have the willingness to consider the company for another purchase. And at the bottom, you have a likelihood to recommend to a friend or a colleague. And you can see there's a very high positive correlation between those questions and how customers rate their experience with a brand. There's also a negative correlation with the middle one, which says likelihood to switch business to a competitor. So that's good that there's a negative correlation. Your customers, if they think that they have a great experience with you, have less likelihood of switching their business to a competitor. I assume the Cubs probably don't have that issue, that's a risk. Revenue. So higher usage from your existing customers and retaining your existing customers leads to higher revenue. That is going to happen more often when you have a great experience. Similarly with cost reduction. In our industry, the regulators love great customer experience. That's a lot of what they're trying to do is represent the customer. So when we deliver a great customer experience, we are subject to much less regulatory scrutiny. And we also reduce customer service calls, right? Whenever the phone is ringing, or frankly, whenever people are tweeting at us with questions or complaints, it's usually because there's something wrong with the experience. So to the extent that we can have a better experience, we actually reduce cost that way. And finally, stock price. This was a really interesting analysis at looking at the Forrester Customer Experience Index and the top companies that get the best scores in customer experience and the companies that get the worst scores, and looking at their stock prices compared to the S&P 500 over a 6-year period. The customer experience leaders were up, I think that says 43%, in a time period where the S&P was up 14.5%, and the companies that were ranked with the lowest customer experience lost 34% during that same time. Now, even if you're not a public company, presumably you have an interest in profit, which also drives stock price. And so this showed actually a real correlation between customer experience and profitability. Okay, so to deliver great customer experience in digital, we think that design should be 3 things. The first is simple. Simple just means a low effort to complete the task. Let the customer get to where they want to go as quickly as possible. That means using clear language so they understand their options and they understand any programs you're having them sign up for. And easy navigation. Get the clutter out of the way. Let them find what they're looking for. And second is relevance. We try to build all of our experiences from a customer-centric point of view. It's very difficult when we sit next to marketers who want to build from a marketing point of view, right? I've got this product or service that I want to sell. So building from a customer-centric point of view means being willing to say, you know what, this particular customer is not interested in your product or service, so let's get the right product to the right customer, and let's not bother this customer with it. We do that through very targeted marketing, and I think evolving over time is customization, is really creating experiences that, that users are able to customize on their own. And then finally is branded. We spent a lot of time over the last year getting our website to be more consistent. We have over 850 pages on our website. A keen eye a couple years ago could have looked through them and noticed, oh, this one they haven't updated, since 2 redesigns ago, and then this one they updated in the last redesign, and then here's some new pages. So we've really made the site more consistent, and our customers have noticed. Memorable. And then attributable is that if you have a great experience, you want people to obviously attribute it to your brand. So a quick little case study on our own website. This is what the account center, so this is once you log in with your user ID and password to your Discover Card account. This is what the account center looked like about 1.5 years ago, coming up on 2 years. And what you may notice is there's a bunch of links at the top, and then here's some other links over here on the left with some information. We got a bunch of links on the right about rewards. Got a big thing in the middle with a lot of pictures and more links. Got a whole slew of links at the bottom. Total of 30 clickable links on the home page. Now, the reason I circled this center section is it's my favorite section to talk about. That first tab that you can see that's the first of many tabs, but the first tab says Just For You. And Just For You has now taken on sort of this ironic meaning at Discover, because the Just For You tab was supposed to be for targeted marketing. But what happened is, if we didn't have anything to say to the customer in a targeted way, we just said something anyway. We just put something there anyway. And so Just For You really didn't become just for them. It became just whatever we felt like talking about that day. And we literally trained our customers to ignore that entire spot on the website, because they knew it wasn't just for them. They knew it was marketing. And so the click-through rate in that area of the site absolutely plummeted. We knew we had to do something. So, oh, shoot, I gave away the secret. Can anybody guess, if you didn't see that, how many of the 30 clickable links do customers actually use on a regular basis? 4, 3. You guys are very close. It's 5. 5 critical links on the page accounted for 87% of the clicks on our homepage. And not surprisingly, if I assume most of you in the audience have a credit card and have visited a credit card website, well, not surprisingly, our customers come to look at their statement, look at their recent transactions, to make a payment, or the secure message area is really for customer service. So if you have an account question, you have to send us an email through a secure message area, which is very typical, or the logout button. So 5 things on a site that had 30 clickable links. So what do? We redesigned our homepage and we highlighted those things. Right there, front and center, we've got view statement, recent activity, and make a payment. The 3 things that our customers told us they were coming to our site to do. Much bigger font, big orange buttons to draw your attention to the action that the customer needs to take if they want. Now, we kept the other 2 things at the top because we actually waited a year before we redid our navigation because we didn't want too much change at once. Otherwise, as Kevin mentioned, people often revolt against change, so you don't want to have too much change at once. So we kept those where they were. Now, we also had to take into account that there are other people, there are other constituents within the building. And so Discover, since it started over 25 years ago, has had rewards as a core equity. We invented cashback rewards. We were the first company to do that. It is something that our brand will always stand for. So even though that wasn't at the top of the list of where people were going, we thought it was really necessary to give it a good amount of space on the homepage. We brought through the amount of the cashback bonus rewards bank, which we knew was of value to the customer, and we gave them a big orange button to redeem. Redemptions went through the roof when we did that. We also brought recent transactions right to the homepage because we knew that people were coming more than anything else to just look at those last couple of transactions and make sure they went through in the way they thought they did. By bringing them to the homepage, we now make it so they don't even have to click anywhere to get to the information that they wanted. So what happened? Well, customers find what they're looking for on the homepage, which is great. We got rid of a lot of clutter and we highlighted the things that we knew they were looking for. An interesting statistic that we looked at as a goal, and if anybody here that's in e-commerce, this is a horrible goal for you, but for us this was a great goal, was the percentage of one-page visits. We understand the fact that people don't wake up in the morning wanting to interact with their credit card company. So we wanted to make sure that they could log in, get what they wanted, and go on about their day. So one-page visits actually was a great metric for that, is to say, hey, if you logged in, saw what you wanted, and left, and never clicked on a thing, we actually looked at that as a success metric, and we got the percentage of one-page visits to increase quite a bit. And then we kept to the standards that I mentioned before that we really thought were important, that the new homepage is simple, it's relevant, and it's branded. So then, Hope was talking about mobile. And so what about mobile? Well, this is probably a stat that will surprise absolutely no one. In the last 2 years, we've seen our mobile visits increase 370%. The charts, it's hard to even draw the charts anymore because the increases are so big. Well, guess what? Mobile had exactly the same results. So we went from, this was our Android app, where we had the right things up on the homepage there, the account summary and the statements and the recent transactions. But the customer had to tap to get through them. So we brought all the information right to the front. And we said, well, here you go. Here's your balance, because we know you came to look for your balance. Here's your rewards bank, because we know you came to look for that. And what we saw is exactly the same thing, that the amount of time on the app dropped considerably. Again, not a metric that all of you may consider a success. We thought in terms of driving a positive customer experience for what our customers want, this was a real success. Okay, so let's look at marketing and how we approach the marketing piece. If you go back to that pizza page, we did website, mobile app. Now I'm going to do marketing, then we'll talk about social. So two pillars that we really look at. Relevance is absolutely key. So here are 3 ads on our website, and they're all for the same thing. They're all to tell the customer that we have a new 5% rewards program, and we'd like for them to sign up. Now the first one is on the login page. So it's before the customer has come into the site. It's the biggest of the ads. Has a nice image next to it and a big button. The second one is on the recent activity page. So imagine if I hadn't cut it off, you've got a bunch of transactions underneath there, and this is sort of the summary at the top. And the third, very hard to read, ugly little thing, underneath an Amazon.com transaction for $29.95, it says shop, buy, and enjoy. Sign up to get 5% cashback bonus on all online purchases. So you can probably guess, given that the slide says relevance, which one of these did the best. What might surprise you is that the inline transaction actually performed 60 times better than the login screen. Now, if you ask the marketers and you don't show them this graph, the marketers will say, I'll take the login screen because I get more impressions and I get a prettier ad. And that's what they like about it. When they see that, they change their mind very quickly and they say, okay, we'll take more of those inline transaction things. When I told this to Hope on the phone, she said to me a quote that now has stuck in my head, ugly always wins. And I thought that was a really interesting summary because, yeah, that's the ugliest ad. There's nothing pretty about it. But it's contextually relevant, and it is in exactly the right place at the right time. So customers click on it, and they go through, and they don't just click. They actually sign up for the program, which is what we wanted them to do. The other thing is simplification. So on the new homepage, along the right side, we call it the right-hand rail. This is when we first launched the new homepage. This is what the right-hand rail looked like. This is what happens when marketers get a hold of things, right? We got a lot of different logos, and we've got a header here that says deals with a link on the right, and this one's got a link on the left, but it's got a Google something logo, and the cashback bonus needed its own logo, and now we've got more links on the left and another link on the right, and here's a headline in caps, and here's a headline in non-caps, and how in the world is the customer supposed to differentiate all of this? Now, I can't get rid of all of this because I have too many constituents that really have a good business case for having their stuff. What I can do is organize it a little bit better for the customer. So now we have consistent headings. If you're interested in rewards, great. I've got a couple of things for you that you might be interested in. If you're interested in security, you might want to check out this section. All of the links are in one place. All of the headers are in one place. It's a much simpler experience, and it allows customers to find what they want faster. And then finally, optimization. This is an interesting chart, and no, your glasses are not malfunctioning. I did have to blur out some of these numbers. But basically what this is showing is this is on-site marketing. It's all within our account center. And what it's showing is that our number of impressions in 2014 basically stayed the same the entire year with a couple of movements. But look what happened to our click-through rate. It went up almost 50%. And all we did was we got rid of the campaigns that weren't working. So the targeted marketing that people aren't interested in, that isn't relevant, that people don't click on, stop bothering them with it, which is what I mean at the bottom when I say willingness to stay quiet. That was the lesson we learned with the Just For You tab, is if you don't have anything to say, it's okay to say nothing. You can be quiet for a while, because what happens is when you have something to say again, customers actually notice it because you've now put some marketing in front of them that actually catches their eye. We also optimize the high-performing campaigns. So when you look through your transactions now, you will see a lot more of those inline messages, only when they're relevant and only when they're related to the transaction that you are viewing. But you're going to see it a lot more often because it has given us a lot more success. The inline transaction delivers far fewer impressions, but the results speak for themselves and make up for the lower impressions. So now we'll quickly talk about social. And I always like to say, and this audience hopefully already knows this, but you have to get the basics right first. And that means you have to have a great product or service. Okay? I'm proud to say that we do, and that is a really good starting point. Cubs have the same success there. Start off with a great product or a great brand. You have to have marketing expertise. Otherwise, taking marketing and trying to throw it into social without really understanding how marketing works is going to lead to failure. And most important and near to dear to my heart is you have to have a culture of service if you are in a service industry. Okay, so if you do not do these things, social media is a very wild, wild west place to be. If you have these things offline, social media can be a great way to enhance all of them. So at Discover, we also have a deep-rooted culture of service. We are the first credit card company to offer what now seems really quaint, but 24/7 customer service on the phone. We're still our only credit card company to offer 100% US-based customer service. Reps that actually answer the phone and say, hi, this is Sally from Phoenix. So we have this service culture throughout our company, which means that going on to social And playing the customer service game is not in the least bit scary to us. And it is scary to a lot of companies, as it should be, because that culture of service isn't there already. If you don't have a culture of service, if you have a culture where your phone rings off the hook, or people are on hold forever, or you try to get people to self-serve in the automated messaging system because you don't want to talk to them, social media is going to kill you because you can't do that on social. So in content, just a couple, I think, of key points that we try to focus on. Know your audience, obviously, in terms of what you're talking about. Talking with people and not at people. I think a lot of brands forget this, that social, I think I say this later, so I'll jump to another bullet, but don't forget the social and social media, right? It isn't just another mass media platform. Utility is a term by one of my favorite guys, Jay Baer, and if you don't follow him on Twitter, you absolutely should, and get his book, Utility. It talks about content that helps instead of sells, and how valuable that is to a customer, that if you help a customer, if you help a prospect, they're going to have so much more loyalty to your brand than if you're always selling to them. Listen to what others are saying about your brand. It's okay to recycle your content. I just wrote a post about this a couple of weeks ago where I did my own independent study with my own handle, posting the same quote over and over again on different days of the week, different times, and found that actually the more I tweeted it out, the more engagement it got. The 8th, 9th, and 10th times that I tweeted it out, I got better engagement than probably the first 7 times combined. And yet, marketers are often afraid to do that because they think that there's somebody that's sitting there counting all of the tweets coming from the brand and noticing that one or more of them might be repetitive. And don't forget the social and social media. Be sure to engage with your fans and customers. Which brings me to social care. And we believe that you should serve the customer in the channel of their choice. This is something that we really focus on. There's nothing worse than tweeting at a brand and having them say, we're happy to help you, please call us at 1-800 blah, blah, blah. Okay, most customers know that they can call the 1-800 number, and if they're on Twitter, it's because they don't want to do that. Respond to everything, praise, questions, and complaints. Now, Kevin mentioned trolls before, and I think that is probably the one exception that at some point when you recognize a troll, you've got to back off. But we really try to engage at least once everybody that mentions our brand. And if they have a complaint, we look at it as an opportunity to fix. And I'll show you some great examples of this in a minute. First tweet resolution is my term that is sort of stolen from a call center lingo of first call resolution, right? And the idea is that nobody wants to tweet back and forth with the brand 19 times to get their question answered. And especially in Twitter, this is hard because you only have the 140 characters. But getting at what is the answer to the question and solving the problem for the customer is absolutely critical. A little bit easier in Facebook because you have more space. We are one of the very few remaining brands that believes in this, but we believe in it really, really strongly, which is a single Twitter handle for both service and marketing. So we have one handle. It's at the bottom of my slide, even though you can hardly see it. It's @Discover. And that is where our marketing comes, and that is where we answer customers one-on-one through a customer service channel. How many people here have tried to tweet at a brand and have ended up not realizing that you have to go to brand name helps or ask brand name to get your question answered? So you end up tweeting at the wrong handle, and maybe if they're coordinated, the handle passes it on to the right one for you, and maybe they don't. In fact, a lot of times they don't. So we just go with a single handle, and it's worked really well for us so far. Allow customers to post on your Facebook wall. Many companies don't do this. Many brands don't do this. Again, you guys are all having something to do with social, so you know this. People are talking about your brand, whether you're involved in the conversation or not, so you might as well be involved in the conversation. We want people to post on our wall rather than posting somewhere else where we don't have a view into it and can't engage with it. And then use direct messaging or chat to take private info out of a public space. We were the first financial company last year to introduce secure chat within Twitter, which is a really cool functionality. So if you tweeted us and ask us an account level question that we can't answer in public, and you don't want us to answer in public, we will send you a personalized link that is valid for 24 hours. When you click on it, up pops a secure chat session, just as if you were clicking on click to chat on our website. We can then validate your account and have a two-way conversation quickly in chat to solve the problem for you. Again, that's so much better than telling them that they have to call. Okay, so 2 examples, and I'll let you go. I will summarize this because it's a little hard to read. And again, I'm sorry, my lawyers make me blur out the people to protect their identity. But here's a guy that posted on our wall, and he said, I was late on my Discover card payment by 1 day. You jacked up my rate. I called, and I was willing to take responsibility since it was my fault. And Jamie said she would take care of me since it was only 1 day late, and she'd reset my interest rate. So I agreed. We'll see what happens. Okay, so he's posted this on our wall. He clearly doesn't believe that Jamie is going to solve his problem, even though Jamie said she would. So he's going to come here, right? And I think that, I was talking before that we've definitely seen, for a while now, we're seeing a transition from social being the channel of last resort, which it really started off as, right? I didn't get the help I needed on the phone, so now I'm going to go to social, and I'm going to really give them a piece of my mind. To people that have figured out that social can actually be a great channel of first resort in order to solve your problem quickly. So we responded back, and we said, thank you. We said, Gary, I have, now you guys know his name is Gary. Don't tell the lawyers. So I have reviewed your account, and the representative you spoke with has completed all the adjustments promised. Please allow 48 hours for the credits to occur, et cetera, from Amber. So he writes back and says, thank you so much for all of your help. I appreciate everything. And then here's the kicker. 2 people not even involved in this transaction pop in to say, wow, very impressed with that service. And the second one says, wow, exclamation point. So we've managed to bring a customer service engagement into the public space so that these 2 folks, who I don't even know if they're my customers or not, frankly, but now they know that we have great customer service, and they didn't even have a problem. Now a Twitter example, and this one's my absolute favorite. At Discover, haven't checked my mail in a few days, and there are 3 offers. Sorry, this didn't start at Discover, so this is a public one, right? This isn't right at us. Haven't checked my mail in a few days, and there are 3 offers for the Discover It card: persistence or lack of coordination. Now, again, I said before that we don't necessarily have brand permission to be as edgy as maybe a sports team does, but we do train our reps to, when appropriate, kind of mirror the language of the customer. And in this case, the customer was a little bit edgy, a little bit maybe, we don't want to be sarcastic, but maybe we'll be witty. So I love this. Our rep writes back, we must be excited to have you apply. I thought that was a perfect answer. But then, get to the answer, get to solving the problem. DM us with your full name and full address if you would like the mailings to stop. From Amy. He writes back and says, at Discover, kudos for the prompt response time. Okay, I'll bite, mostly because of your response time, Amy. Hashtag great service. So here's a guy that took the time to tweet at us because he was ticked off that we were sending him too much mail. And what did we do? We got him to apply for the card. So that's a pretty good success story, I think, in social service. So just to summarize the takeaways from my presentation today, customer experience is how customers feel about every interaction they have with your brand. Doesn't matter whether it's offline, or online, or in social, or on the website, or at the bathrooms, or wherever they are, every experience counts towards their overall view of your brand. Consider both the physical and digital aspects of customer experience and how they interact with each other. Remember, the guy that tweeted at us about the mail started with an offline interaction, right? He got a piece of mail from us, which is also part of the customer experience. Then he got another piece, and then he got another piece. And we're driving him nuts offline, and what do you know? It shows up online. Digital design should help customers quickly self-serve. That's why they are on your website or on your app. Marketing should be contextual and relevant. And social media continues to play a really big role in customer experience. I'll leave that up there for a couple people that are taking pictures. That is all that I have today. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions as well.
Great case studies. In both those cases, in the first one, you replied within an hour. Mm-hmm. The second time, you replied within 10 minutes.
Yep.
How much did you have to address that, the speed at which social goes in designing what you're doing here?
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. That's usually something that I like to mention, is especially the speed of this Twitter response. So you guys have probably read the statistics that expectations on social are continuing to grow and that customers are expecting faster turnarounds. They're still expecting turnarounds in the under an hour range. We were at about 3 hours 3 years ago, and we are now, I'm very proud to say, we average approximately 20 minutes. And we have goals to still do better than that. So we look to really the airlines, I would say, are probably the best that I've seen at speedy response. And that makes sense because they've got people that are stranded in an airport who have probably a more urgent problem than any of my customers have. But we felt that if we could do as well as the airlines in terms of our response time, then we really could be considered best in class really across industries. I believe that we've already blown away our direct competitors in terms of response time. And what happens is when you have that expectation, the response, first of all, you've probably also seen the data that many brands are not responding at all. So this continues to shock me, but responding at all is still a surprise and delight to people, right? And so if somebody takes the time to, even if it's, especially if it's a compliment about your brand, taking the time to respond back to them is such a surprise and delight to them. But doing that in a speedy fashion is not just an expectation, but it is also sort of delivering above and beyond expectations, because I think that a lot of people tweet at a brand and then they go about their day and they figure, well, maybe I'll hear from them in a week or a day or whatever it's going to be. And 10 minutes later, their phone's buzzing and they've got an answer. They're very impressed. So we've really, again, this is about taking our culture of service that's always been there and just adapting to a new platform. And so for us, it was obvious. We got to respond to these people fast. We're not going to let people, we don't let people sit on hold either, right? We have a brand promise, we had a brand promise for many years. We don't advertise it anymore, but it's still true, that you will talk to a human being in under 60 seconds. We have a very easy and well-publicized way to get past our IVR on the phone. Hit 0, and you will talk to a person, no matter where you are on the menu, right? So we just took that same approach and moved it to social.
I guess I don't really have a question, but I been live tweeting, and you and I have been sitting here chatting, but I tweeted something that you mentioned here, and Discover responded within 20 minutes.
Fantastic.
So
Excellent.
they're living up to what you're praising them for, so well done.
Fantastic, glad to hear it. And I just want to, now that you mention it, I wanted to tell Hope that I think it's woefully unfair that I can't tweet while I'm presenting, because now I have no chance I'm going to win any of those prizes. Anybody else? Oh. Kevin's got a question. I'm ready.
For the record, I tweeted that you were doing a great job and tagged Discover, and they didn't reply to that one.
Darn it. Heads are going to roll when I get back.
I'm really intrigued that you let customers post directly to Facebook. I think out of everything you said, that stands out to me the most. And I'm curious to hear, is that backfired if a person has a bad experience and they just aren't pleased? Because I imagine at some point you're going to encounter that.
Yeah, there definitely are conversations where you are just not going to please the customer. And some of it is because we can't, that there's something that's happened where it's just beyond our control and it isn't fixable. And some of it is trolling behavior that is just sort of meant to harass, right? And we've run into those situations before. In fact, ironically, given your presentation, we more recently ran into one based on one of our partnerships that had very little to do with us, but had to do with the partner, right? And that reflected on us. So if something gets really, really messy, we will try to disengage, which usually just sort of makes the chatter go away. We don't delete posts unless they have profanity or something that is obscene in them. So we let it sit and we let it, and usually what happens is, especially with a troll, is when there is no longer an audience, they just die down. And so, you know, in a day or so, that's no longer getting any traction on our page. You'd have to scroll quite a bit to get to it, so it doesn't really matter. But we do believe that it is really important to have people post on the wall because, again, if they're not posting on your wall, they're posting somewhere else. And here, at least, we get to see and we get to engage. And our customers, I think, really appreciate it.